In today's segment of Look What the Lord Has Done, we'll be hearing from Mary Velez and her powerful testimony about how God took her story from one of witchcraft and domestic violence to one of light and a life full of purpose. Let's hear her story.
Okay, so I first like to thank 10 Ministries for giving me this opportunity to share what God has done in my life. It first started at the age of 3. I was born in San Lorenzo, Puerto Rico, and unfortunately, I don't remember my parents because my father killed my mother. I was left there with her 3 days after I was found by my grandmother that lived 2 doors down. So can you imagine 3 years old in Puerto Rico is hot with a person that had died 3 days. Who took care of me? I had no one for 3 days. That was my beginning. Then I was given to my father's sister, my aunt. And for her, I was a miracle. Why? Because she couldn't have kids. So I was a miracle given to her. And that's how everything started in my life. But for me, now that I have more knowledge in the Lord, I realized that from the beginning, the dark and the light was fighting for me. Because as Jeremiah 1:5 says, he knows even before I was created what my purpose in life will be. The enemy also knew that. So he was trying to take me out. But it's always victory in the Lord. After that, I grew up in a family. Wonderful, they loved me, but they used to do witchcraft. For them, it was a normal thing. I grew up waking up at 12 o'clock at night, and this is a kid that has to go to school the next day. And they used to get me out of the room and do a circle, and we had to be in the circle with a pentagram. And there they will start praying, but not regular prayers to the Lord. They used to like invoke spirits, and we all have to hold hands. I seen my mother turn into something else, speak like other things. If it was a guy spirit, she will change voices and even the mannerism. In this particular night, supposedly the spirit that came over my mother, this spirit was supposed to be against me. So that was a very scary time because all I heard was get out of the circle, run. My father said that. Don't let it touch you. All I saw for me is my mother. I got underneath the bed, her and this voice of a guy trying to get me. And I'm supposed to not be touched. This is the kind of experiences that I had to endure. It was something that scared me, didn't understand it, but for them it was a normal thing. So for that, it became familiar. It was what I knew. At 15, I fell in love and I got married. He was ironically the pastor's son of a Pentecostal church. That's my first encounter with the Lord. I didn't understand much at that time, but the Lord was doing something. So I experienced possession. This is what I'm telling you. I seen the dark and the light both manifest in self in my life. This particular experience, I was already married, and I now lived in my husband's father's house, which he was a pastor, and my mother lived right in front of where we lived. It was right across. So this particular night, I was already sleeping, and all of a sudden, I felt like I needed to get up. Something had taken over my entire body. And I was laughing and laughing, and my husband next to me got up because what is going on with this woman? I couldn't control myself. And the amazing thing is that I knew what I was doing, but it had possession over me. And my thing is that I wanted to get out of the house. I don't know what the purpose of that was, but I wanted to get out of the house. But what happened, the pastor got up, my father-in-law, and when he saw me, he recognized what was happening immediately. And he came over me, and I remember he put his hand in me, and he started praying. And the minute that man started praying, this thing, and I felt it like coming out of me, was so powerful. And as it was coming out of me, I saw it. It was not a body, but black and gray. And it just went through a door, and I fell down because I had taken all the energy out of me. Other times, I used to hear things in the house and see things. With that said, I know the dark exists. The dark is real because I lived in it. I felt it. But Jesus is the one that can set us free completely. When we moved to New York, my both parents passed away. I was only 15 years old. If I would have not gotten married, what would have happened to me? But we came to New York and the world got us. My husband got into drugs. We never even stepped in a church again. I was married to him for a long time. I had 2 kids. But because of his drug addiction, I knew that was not for me. We tried to help him, his family. He got deep into it. I got into school, high school. I didn't have no guidance really because my parents had passed away. So I was a young person in New York City, free to do whatever I wanted. And I had goals. So somehow, even though I didn't know too much English, I put myself to school, no bilingual. And by the second semester, I was already fluent. I still got an accent, but I couldn't take that away. I left that marriage thinking this was better for me, but I found somebody else. And that person, I lived for 16 years with him. I never got married for 16 years, but he was an abuser. When you don't follow what the Lord has for you, this is what happens. We just delayed our purpose. We're born with a purpose, but we delay it. And that's what happened. I was walking in my own understanding. And he emotionally, physically, used to tell me, you can do anything by yourself. You got me and that's all you have, because he knew that I didn't have no family. I was in New York. I believed every lie that he used to tell me. And I was weak for a long time believing that. It was one of my daughters, at that time I had 5 kids, that told me, Mom, why you hold on to that? I remember thinking back, but I can't make it. I can't make it on my own. I have 5 kids, how I'm going to do this? Until it just got worse. One time we were fighting and he almost killed me. I remember, as it was today, he had me in the kitchen floor by my neck, and I felt like 2 more minutes and I would have been dead. But it was my son, Ryan, who came down the stairs. We live in a 2-family house, and started crying. And that gave me so much strength that even though this man had all his force on me, my kids crying gave me so much strength that I got up. I pushed him and I took a knife to defend myself, and I just remember saying to him, back off me. He threw something and I started running upstairs. I called the cops to let them know what had just happened. He almost killed me. But he worked for MTA, so he used that power. I remember the police, when they came in, they were listening to me. They saw my marks in my body. And the minute that that man took that badge, they backed up, and I went to jail. I went to jail. I was the victim, and I was there for 3 days. I had never done anything illegal, not used drugs, no alcohol, and there I was in jail for 3 days with people that I had done things. I thought at that time that that was the worst days of my life. But I'm going to tell you the truth. Now I know that was my freedom. Because in that jail cell, I was able to recognize this was not love, this was not healthy, and I needed to get out. Didn't have the complete faith yet because God was walking me through everything. See, just sometimes we gotta step in that water. We in that boat and we afraid. But until we don't step in that water, nothing is gonna happen. After those 3 days, I left. The good thing is that the Lord has everything set up. I still had a job. I went on Friday. I came out on Monday morning. I was able to go and call one of my friends, go live with them. It was a fight that I had to go through because he had, after that, he took all my kids. He took all my kids. I had to fight for the 3 kids that I had with him because he used that against me. But it was a process. After that, I was able to find an apartment and start the legal fights. That took a long time. This whole happened in the Bronx. I decided at that time to move. That's when I moved to Queens, where I didn't know anyone. But I want to start new beginning. God had blessed me with a car so I could just still come to the Bronx to work. But I didn't want to be here. 3 years later, to fast forward, I met Raymond, my husband now. When we first met, it felt like it was supposed to be. We became boyfriend and girlfriend, and 1 year after, we started living together. It was no honeymoon. I'm going to tell you why. We were both damaged. We had different backgrounds, so much baggage that we were bringing it to our relationship now. I had a friend that came to my life and she introduced me to somebody else that was doing witchcraft. The enemy always going to try to bring you what's familiar to you. And that's when I was introduced back to the witchcraft. I started even learning how to be a witch. I even mark myself as a witch. I have a tattoo that I want to take off now. But I did that. I was learning to do the cards, tarot cards, and I thought that was it because that's what I knew before. And besides, I always had the heart to help people. And the enemy lies to you, telling you that by telling you your future, you're going to help them. But that's a lie. The Bible speaks about this. My girls, my older girls were even learning. They got far. They were doing tarot cards and learning all that right along with me. So I was dragging my family to go to hell with me, but not even knowing it. Not even knowing it. But then Ray came. And the minute that he met that friend, not knowing the Lord, he told me, this is specific words he used, that guy is evil. And I said to him, oh, you're just jealous because he's a guy. Natural thing, right? He's my best friend. And he said, I don't want him here. His presence made him uncomfortable. And even though he didn't know the Lord yet, I believe my husband was sent to me to guide me to the right path so we can go there together. And God gave him that wisdom. Like I said, it was not all rose in the beginning because I was becoming abusive towards him. See, I was in that kind of environment for 16 years without realizing it. When you're in a place for so long, you can also become that person. Even though that was never my real personality, I became overprotected of my kids. And if Ray says something, any little thing, I even hit him once. And that's when we realized, and he said, we need to go to church. What I didn't know is that he had prayed for a woman, like loved him just the way he was and loved his kids, because he has 8 kids. So, and they end up loving the Lord because he had that in his mind already. So we went, and I remember that night, it was a prayer night, Wednesday. And if I can tell you, share with you today, I felt like the Lord Jesus grabbed me by the hand himself, using the people that was hosting there, and guided me to where I was supposed to be then. Remember Pastor Dorso praying and me feeling like scales came out of my eyes. It was a powerful, powerful experience. After that, I started worshiping, and I felt fire coming from my head to my toes. Because of that experience with the Lord, I was changed completely. And it only took one time. The Lord was waiting for me. That was the time where I needed to be there. When I left that place, I knew that everything that I was doing was completely wrong. It was funny because I told my husband, that was my boyfriend at the time, I can't sleep with you no more. That's when he said, oh, why did I take you to church? I remember telling him, no, we can't do this anymore. A few weeks later, we went to the pastor and we told them how we felt. And from there on, everything has been such an amazing walk with the Lord. He has changed us, transformed us in a way that now we have so much passion for the Lord, we can stop. And we want to share the same things that He has done in our lives to others, because it's so much the enemy wants to keep and use all those gifts that the Lord had inserted in you. He wants to use them, and that's what was happening in my life. But now I'm a new creation. I serve the Lord and I love Him.
What do you hope your testimony will do for other people?
Oh, help them understand that you're not stuck in these lies. When you come to the Lord, you become completely free. But it's by faith, only by faith. By, like I said before, by stepping out of that boat. That water is scary when you first think about it. But that's what freedom is. Because you're giving yourself completely in faith by the Lord. So I'm hoping that my testimony helps people step out of that boat into the water.